ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. It's that time of the week for the Friday edition of the Breakfast Bankroll with good friend and colleague, Mr. Scotty Webb, live from Tampa. I'm from Cape Cod, Mass. The sun is out, feels great out there. I had a couple windy, dreary, rainy days the last couple days, but excited the sun's out. And hopefully sometime this afternoon get a little outdoor cardio today. First and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber Hawley, Caro Bucks, Matt, Allen. The list is endless. Come on over. Enjoy yourself for the rest of 2025 and big things brewing for 2026. AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Terry Smith does wonders. Head on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Terry. Then come on back to AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Steak, seafood, chops, appetizers, wine. Excuse me. Terry does it all. The only thing you'll need is a spare propane tank. And we got a new sponsor that will be releasing early next week. Good friends. I've been working with Chris Viali for Cambridge Credit Union for a long time with NEBA and the New England Bowling Association, and we're going to try to put something together here to help everyone out that might be having some credit issues, some credit card debt, and some other debt, and you give them a call. They can consolidate everything into one and make your life a lot easier. We should be debuting them early next week. So first and foremost, let's bring him in, Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, champ?
Hey, man, I like your hat.
Thank you. You know, the funny thing is I have about a half dozen of these, and I have them hanging very nicely. And I was like, you know what? I think we might need to start debuting these. So I figured, why not? And today's the day we get the nice gray one.
Yeah, I like the hat, man. I think us old guys look good in hats. Of course, I don't have one on today, but, you know, it is what it is.
You know, funny, Thursday's a meeting night for me. I get home usually for the first quarter of the NFL game. And I talk a lot about pancake games, look-ahead games, and it was the perfect storm. Short week divisional game as the limping Raiders with Geno Smith come into town to Denver, with Denver hosting Kansas City next week. Kind of a sense of urgency for the Chiefs. They're already 3-point favorites in that game. A Denver team that, other than that 33-point explosion in the fourth quarter against Dallas, was it Dallas? No, the Giants, I think it was, has done squat. but yet, what are they? 7-2, 8? No, they're 8-2 now atop the AFC right now. Regression. There is absolutely something going on in the offense with Sean Payton, Bo Nix. He's got all the weapons in the world. I think Cortland Sutton must have some video of either Bo Nix or Sean Payton. He's just an afterthought. My headliner, Snooze Fest and Mile High. Are Broncos overvalued and fade material moving forward, Scotty?
Well, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Like Raiders weren't going to score, they weren't going to move the ball, and they didn't. But putting 1 + 1 together, the Denver offense is terrible. So they actually made the Raiders look good on defense. So I think going forward, what you have to do is you have to look for right spots for Denver, right? You don't want to play them as a favorite ever, because if you're going to try to cover a margin with a team that can't score, that's not a good idea. But if you're going to get points, their defense is going to hold you in games, and it's not even so much that their defense holds you in games; it's how they play the defense that really holds them in. Their sack rate, the pressure that they put on the quarterback is top notch in the NFL, and I think that matters when it comes to opponent offenses trying to move the ball down the field, right? I mean, if you sack the guy and you move him back 9 yards or whatever, 7 yards, whatever it is, it's going to be difficult for teams to overcome that. It's like a holding penalty. Team offenses can't overcome holding penalties anymore. So I think that's a big deal, and I think that when you think about overrated under, I think it depends on the role. I really do, because I think in the NFL you can bet defenses, but you can only bet them if you're getting points. And I guess unless you're the Bulls last night, right? They scored 14 points in the first quarter on their defense alone. They had an interception return for a touchdown and a fumble return for a touchdown. They didn't even have the ball. Their offense had not even touched the ball yet, and they were ahead 14-0. Just what a weird ass game that was. But point being is that in the NFL, these teams are way different and strategically set out to matriculate the ball down the field, and if your defense is able to push them back, that makes things more difficult for the offense for sure. And you can definitely bet defense in the NFL.
Why is that like that? Oh, there it is. I just lost my train of thought here. Give me a second. Oh, yeah. You talk about the wrong side. You talk about leaving plays on the desk. NCAA basketball started this week. We come out of the gates 2-1. We fumble, go 1-3. We go 3-0 2 nights ago, and I'm looking for sifting through everything. I thought it was a Raiders number, but if you sent me 100 to bet on the Raiders, I would have sent you 200 back and tell you to get yourself some nice cigars and a nice steak dinner on ECSI. South Florida team total was 41.5, 42.5. And as we had Ron Marmolewski on yesterday afternoon, Scotty, he says UTSA is just apples and oranges from home and away. And the same with USF. They've had some great games at home, and they're a scoring machine. And I had the over 41.5, 42.5 team total right here on the desk. And I'm just going to vent for a second here, because I left it on the desk and I went to college hoops, and you're going to roll your eyes when I tell you what happened last night. I had the Florida team total first half over 53.5. And you're going to say, holy shit, Jeff, that's a lot of points in the first half. 0-1 playing North Florida. Figured it was a great get well spot. They scored 52 points and shot 2 for 17 for 3. It's mathematically impossible to score 52 points and shoot 2 for 17 for 3. So lands on 52. I checked that off as an L. It gets better because we got the full game total over 105.5, Scotty. They got 104 points, and they clank 2 free throws with 30 seconds left. And for the game, they shot 22% from 3. And their actual number, if I can pull it up here for everyone here so they can laugh at me here as I'm still seething here. Let me see here. Their actual number for the game, that was the first half. That was that. For the full game, 6 for 32 for the full game. They shot 18.8% and land on 104. And here's the funny. They win by 40, favored by 42, and the under-over was 169.5, and it lands on 168. It's just amazing how Vegas does it, sir.
Yeah, I think this is one of the drawbacks to what I do. So that's why I stay away from college basketball for the first week or two. And it's not that I wouldn't have the same problems. I mean, you run into this no matter what you do. They're 18-year-old kids, man. They're 18, 19-year-old kids. Some days they're going to go out there and, they had a good night and, they're all ready to go. And some days they got in a fight with a girlfriend. So, it's one of these things, where, it's college basketball can be more affected and results by one player than, like college football can. And that's the same, just the nature of the sport. So when it comes to this stuff, you just chalk it up and go, there's a good thing that there's, probably 50 more college basketball games to bet today. If you just chalk it up and move on. It's like, I was playing an online poker hand yesterday. I got pocket kings. No, I have queen jack, and the flop comes queen jack. I am burying these guys in betting, right? Like I am over betting the pot, and I'm getting a call, and I'm like, this guy's got like pocket aces or something. Well, I put him all in on the turn, and he calls. So I'm like, he shows pocket kings. I'm like, I got you. I got 2 pair. And the river comes and it's a 6. And I'm like, okay, whatever, no big deal. Well, the 6 paired the board. So now he's got a bigger 2 pair than I got, right? He's got kings and 6s and I got queens and 6s. So, you just chalk it up and move on. There's nothing you can do. You're dead in the water when something like that happens. And it is what it is. And you move along and you go, okay, well, I had a phrase that I use in poker. And the phrase basically is, you must always play your best hand. So when the one hand is over, the next hand starts. And whatever that next hand is, you must always play your best hand. So whatever that looks like and whatever that means and what strategies you use and all of those things. The most difficult thing about what we do and whether it's poker or sports betting or even in life in general, for the most part, you lose focus based off things that have happened to you because you're not mentally in the right frame of mind to make the appropriate choice and decision that you would if you were in the right frame of mind. So I think when stuff happens and you lose a bet and it's just, kids just don't do what they need them to do to win the game, you just move along and you go from there. How many people were on UTSA last night and they go, holy shit, we've had the ball the whole first quarter and we're down 14-0 and the other team hadn't even had the ball yet. They're sitting there going, all right, turn this game off. Let's go get some pizza. Stuff like that happens to everybody and it kind of follows through. And, when you really think about it, the biggest thing is there anything to learn from what happened? I don't know, maybe not. I mean, is there a reason why the selection came to what it was and then it didn't come through? Because maybe you can avoid that later on down the road. Or maybe it was a good play and it just didn't work out and things are the way they are. and you just chalk it up and move on because ideally you don't want to make the same mistakes over and over. You want to play your best hand every time. That's why I always say, in our lanes, it's a similar thing in our world. If you just envision yourself, whether you're playing online or you're actually in the sports book, if you just visualize you with whatever bet amount that you're going to make, if it's $20, if it's $50, if it's $500 or $2,000, if you just visualize your hand with the money and you walking to the window and telling that teller, I'm going to play this game and here's my cash, your hard-earned money that you made, and you're going to hand that over to that person, what's your return look like? Well, if you're just out there screwing around, the reality becomes there's no conviction to your bet. And that's really a lot of way I think of things is be convicted at the window. Like, bet what you think is right and bet it to the degree in which you expect to win and be aggressive with it. And your results should be pretty good.
These in-pocket plays this week: Indiana minus 14.5, Georgia minus 7.5, Texas A&M minus 7, Oregon Ducks minus 6, FSU plus 2.5, Toledo minus 14 is already cash. USC on deck tonight, Scotty, minus the 14. Do you want to start there today on Game on Paper?
Yeah, that's fine. We can go there. Let me get my other scenarios up over here from the games that I put in here that I didn't do. There's the UTSA game. USF. Tulane. I think didn't we do this game yesterday?
Did we do this one?
I think we did, but we can just quickly let me just quickly say this. If I were to give basically a synopsis of this game, you have a top 3 offense in the USC going against a Northwestern defense that's I would say in bad spots in terms of the matchups. My AI computer said that Northwestern is kind of helpless in this spot. And I'm like, I don't know if they're really helpless, but then it says that, USC has a defense that in this particular matchup with Northwestern, because Northwestern is not an explosive team by any stretch, they suffocate them, and the Wildcats, they're prone to turnovers, and they have a terrible quarterback. So that just leads to a couple turnovers to help USC. It's a home game for USC. Northwestern's got to fly out and play this game on the road. I think that this is just one of those spots where it turns into 17, 18, 20-point win for USC. I'm not saying that they're not trying, because I think they will. I think that they need some margin in some of these games that they've been playing in. I think they need to show better than what they did against Nebraska last week. But that was on the road, and Nebraska's a better team certainly than Northwestern is. So I think you're going to see this team play very well tonight. I think, they got the number 2 quarterback in all of college football. And there's going to be mismatches all over the field. So, you can see green to light purple or green to purple everywhere. So I think you're gonna find that some of these people that look at the number and they go, well, it's 14 or 14 and a half or whatever the number is. They get so there's, I don't want to tell you numbers aren't important, because they're extremely important. They really are. But you gotta have a gauge to what that looks like. So if I come out and my computer says it's going to be 34-13, that's what it says. So if it's 34-13, that's 21 points. right? So does 14.5 really come into play? Well, because you got 17, you got 18, you got 20. Those are key numbers. And you sit there and you go, well, I don't know that 14.5 is really a key number. Does it really matter? So if you're going to win by 17, then 14.5 is no good. Same thing for 18. Same thing for 20. It's so all these guys, and this is a Brad Powers flaw, if you ask me, and Joey Knish and those guys that are doing those shows that I tend to watch to see what they do, and especially those guys that are sports books guys. They won't play a game like this because it's 14.5. They got to have 14 or it's a no-go. And I get it. 100% I understand. And are you going to get hooked every once in a while? You absolutely are. But Jeff, I've been doing this on this show for the last, 3-4 weeks, and I've been playing 14.5s. I've been playing 7.5s. I'm not getting hooked. I'm not losing the games because they're covering by margin more than that. So when you look at it from this perspective, don't get lost in that number to the degree in which you don't make a bet, especially one that would be considered one of the best ones of the week. I mean, this is not one of the ones that you would sit there and, I don't know, 17, 18, 19 games through here. And I don't obviously do every game. I'm not interested in every game, but I put these, and then at the end, go through a specific rating system that allows me to get an understanding of where these games fall into play, so that when I'm betting them, A, I'm only betting the good games, and B, when I'm only betting the good games, I'm the cream of the crop bets I bet more on. So, it's one of these spots where this is a good bet. And we'll see how it turns out tonight. But, I see a lot of people that get to a point where they see 14 and a hook and they go, holy crap, I can't bet that.
No, I see that lots of times. What I'll do, and I'll send out on our alerts, and I'm okay spending the extra 10 cents when needed. Some books will try to gouge you getting off a key number. Again, the key numbers back in the day, and they've changed now because of, especially in the NFL, 2-point conversion, the longer extra points, teams going for 2 in situations that back in the day they never would. If they were down 14, they score a touchdown. Usually you kick the extra point to get it to 7. One possession. Well, they'll go for the 2 there and either be down 8 or down 6. So in college, again, as you had said earlier today, they're kids. They're not professionals, but still, again, special teams a big a proponent when it comes to missed field goals, missed extra points, yada, yada, yada. But for me, lots of times on a 14 and a hook, on a 7 and a hook, on a 3 and a hook, I'll lay the extra 10 cents. I'll buy the hook, no pun intended there, and knock it to 3 in case it lands on one of those key numbers there. What game do you want to go to, sir?
We can. So let's do the Missouri and Texas A&M game, because I think there's a lot of things going on here in this game. I think that's a 3:30 game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, we're up.
Off the top of my head, anyway. Now I gotta find it on mine, so I got a reference here. There it is. Bink. All right, so. The first thing that I think that you got to realize, because look at all that dark green for both teams. These are 2 good teams that are going to play each other. So here I am going to go out there and take a road favorite minus a touchdown. What I'm starting to see is a little bit of buyback here from, people are starting to bet Missouri just a little bit. And I get it to a degree when they look at this and they go, man, look, these teams are kind of even. I'm trying to find it on my AI stuff so that I can give you a little bit better understanding here. There's the FSU game, so it's got to be coming up. Bum, 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 bum. Indiana's game, Maryland. Maryland. So just looking at the efficiency models and kind of how all that stuff kind of plays out here. Where's my other sheet? I can figure this out faster. This game shows up where on here? Georgia. Oh, it goes right there. So it should be. I might have passed it. Let's see. Wake Forest and Georgia. So it's got to be up here a little bit more. So you've got a team in Texas A&M that is top 5 in EPA against a team that is top 12 in EPA. You got a number 12 team in yards per play against a team that's top 32. And when you really start to break it down and look at it, there's just so much green everywhere. But some of the stuff that's really important. Look at like Texas A&M on defense, for example. Average third down distance. They're number one. They're number one in college football. So what does that mean? That means that opponents have the furthest to go to get a first down against Texas A&M of all the teams. And then if you look up just a little bit more, they're number 2, probably because of that, on success rate on third down, right? So that means they're stopping the ball opponents from moving the ball, converting first downs. That's a good thing if you want to bet on Texas A&M. And then, looking at it from a perspective of how does it match up on the other side? Well, Texas A&M's offense, they rank 10th on passing, going against the defense that ranks 22nd. And then they have a 30th ranked rush offense against a 53rd ranked defense on the other side. So, the advantage, even though they're still per green, is still to Texas A&M in this spot. And on the vice versa end, when you look at what offensively can Missouri do passing, they rank 41st. They're going to get the 26th ranked passing defense. So the big news in this game, the big deal is Bo Pabula. He's not playing. So when Bo Pabula is not playing in the game, you're going to have a backup quarterback. The backup quarterback in this case, he's a freshman quarterback. So let me make sure I explain this the right way. They had 2 quarterbacks coming into the season for Missouri. They didn't know which one they were going to start because they were kind of coming out of the off season and going into game 1. They didn't know who was going to play, so they were going to play them both. One was going to play the first half, one was going to play the second half, and kind of figure out who was going to be the best. Well, it didn't work out that way because the one quarterback plays on special teams, and he went down on the first play of the game and got hurt. He never even played. Bo Pabula won the job by default and then has done pretty well. Now, Bo Pabula is a transfer from Penn State. He wasn't getting to play because of Drew Aller. So he's done well. Obviously, he's a highly recruited kid, so he's a good quarterback. But that's how the quarterback situation happened. So their 2 best quarterbacks started off that way. One of them got hurt. Well, last week, the other one got hurt. So this is not like we're going to put in the backup quarterback. That's not the way this really is. The way this really is this is a third-team quarterback, and he's a quarterback that had no college experience until last week after Bo Pabula got hurt. Now he's got to prepare for one of the best defenses in all college football. I don't think it's going to go well for them. I really think Texas A&M is going to hold them offensively to whatever, and then figure out how to maneuver and beat Missouri's defense. Is kind of how I think it's going to go. Missouri, let's look at here we go. So last week the last game anyway, they played. They outgained but lost to Vanderbilt. They beat Auburn. They got beat by Alabama. Okay, whatever. They beat the worst team in college football. They played UMass. They gave up 20 points to South Carolina. They gave up 31 to Kentucky or to Kansas. I'm not really in a spot here where I can sit here and tell you that this team is the greatest team that you're ever going to see. And look at how many home games they've played, Jeff. 1,
Well,
2,
that's
3, 4, 5, 6. They played, 7 home games, I think.
that's where I was going to go. They started their first 6 games of the year at home. They went 5-0, lose to Alabama by a field goal. They traveled to Auburn, and that was a grab-ass game for most of it. And then I think it was the fourth quarter where Mizzou pulled away. And then they travel from there to Vandy, and they lose by a touchdown to Diego. And though, if my math's correct, they've had a week off waiting for A&M. And it's funny because in the rankings, there's A&M right there. They're undefeated. And the hard part here is I think everyone in the world, Scotty, doesn't believe in the Aggies, and they're waiting them to finally lose. At UTSA, we saw the true UTSA last night, and Utah State, so nothing early. They did go, it was a revenge spot. They lost opening game last year to Notre Dame at Texas A&M. They beat Notre Dame, big feather in their cap there at Notre Dame, 41-40. They beat Auburn by 6. Mississippi State, who I respect, they beat by, 22. They beat Florida by 17. They go into Arkansas and they roll out the ball. First one to 45 wins, 45-42. They beat LSU in Baton Rouge at night, and they put up 49-25. So, I mean, after this game, South Carolina, Samford, and then the rivalry game against Texas, other than Texas will be probably a slight favorite there. It depends on what happens to them the rest of the year. But they're in the driver's seat, obviously, not just for a first week bye, obviously for the final 12, but they control their own destiny here, Scott.
Yeah, and I found it on my AI system here. So a couple of things that I didn't bring up. Basically, it's talking about the storylines. Texas A&M's defense is stifling. They're number 11 in success. They're only 20. They're 21st in EPA allowed. Their sack rate is 6th in all of football. And of course, they're number 1 on third down rate. Missouri's defense is really good against basically against the run in terms of EPA allowed and yards per rush allowed. But over the last 4 games, the completion percentage, they've allowed 54% of the passes to be completed against them, which on the defense isn't good, and allowed 6.1 yards per pass. I think what you get into here is that where's my here we go. So let's look at it from how the computer comes back and says Texas A&M is probably going to score 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 passing, 3 and get 3 field goals. Okay, well that's 30 points. Missouri's going to get 1 touchdown rushing and 2 field goals. That's 13 points. It's one of these spots in a one-liner kind of phrase. Texas A&M's a top 5 team, elite defense, balanced on offense, great with field position. Missouri's is done without their number 1 quarterback. The number 3 quarterback can't move the ball versus the number 1 third down defense. And this is going to be a Texas A&M spot where they can go on and not only win, but win by margin. And you're not even having to, I think there's some 6.5s out there at this point. You might not even have to cover a touchdown. This particular game was the number 1 spot on graded wise that came out on my system. It's like the number 1 spot. So and then Profit X is weird. I went in to bet the game and thinking I was going to see -7. I got -5.5, And the reason I got -5.5, they didn't offer -7. They did -5.5 at -134. Well, if you do the math and the calculation, -5.5 at -134, which is what I had to bet because -7 wasn't there. I could have tried to figure out how to make that work, but anyway, -134 and -5.5 is better odds than -7 at -110. So I just bet it at that, and then put a lot more money on it because I got a better price. So anyway, that's what I did. I bet it that way. And here's another spot, Jeff, where I think people are starting to come around a little bit. Oregon plays Iowa, and so let's backtrack that game for let's look at that game, but let's look at that game goes. I don't remember what time that game goes at. What 3:30. So if you look at the Oregon Iowa game for a second. But if you go look at just the profile for Oregon for a minute, and you go down here and you look at it and you go, well, Oregon just played Wisconsin, whatever. They beat them up pretty good. They destroyed Rutgers on the road, and they got beat by Indiana, right? They got beat by Indiana pretty handily, and they were never really in that game. They beat Penn State on the road in a whiteout game, whatever that was, and Drew Aller was still available then. Obviously, they destroyed their opponent in Oregon State. They destroyed Northwestern. So look at that score for a minute, and then kind of look at what maybe USC might do. That was on the road. They beat Northwestern 34-14. Oregon against Oklahoma State, and then they played Mississippi State. Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because Iowa, when they played, because Iowa, if you look, Iowa played Indiana, and I'm going to look at this on a different spot here. Let me go here real quick. Indiana. Let me go to. Let's do it that way. Indiana and Iowa, I just had it. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to look at a spot here where I can look at dual game log. Okay. So Iowa played Wisconsin, and Iowa played Rutgers. Iowa played Indiana. Iowa played Penn State. So there's a lot of common opponents here. And if we look at what the records and ratings are in common opponents, there's a couple of things that we're going to see that's a little bit interesting. So in common opponents, Oregon beat Penn State by 6 and Iowa won by 1. When it comes to Rutgers, Oregon beat Rutgers by 46, and Iowa only won by 10. So I start to put, and then if you look at the lines on those games, the lines come out to where Oregon collectively is -13, and if you were to sit there and go -13. Favorites larger than what Iowa was, so -13. So now you're telling me that Oregon's only -6. I think people are buying into what Iowa's done in the last couple of games because their number, Iowa. They have started to score points, right? They scored 41 against Minnesota. They scored 25 against Penn State. They scored 37 against Wisconsin. So does that mean their offense is any good? Well, let's look at the offense for a second. If we go back up here and then we go to their offense ranks 124th in college football. 124th, and they're going to face a defense. Look what the EPA defense rating is for Oregon. #1. So they're -0.17 Offensively, they're 24th. EPA per play, they're second. So I think people are misreading and misgauging this game 100%. And then if you even bring up the QBR part of this, where, okay, the quarterback for Iowa, he's got to be decent, right? He's no good. He's 96th out of 137 kids or 38 kids or 48 kids, however many there are. And the kid in Oregon, he is 30th. He's 30th. Oregon's played the 9th most difficult schedule, and Iowa's played the 26th most difficult schedule. So it validates Oregon's ability then to be good in those spots. And I'm looking for my AI numbers to give you any other feedback. That's the LSU game. Alabama's game. I think that's probably up there a little farther than, isn't it? There's Oregon's game. So when we look at this game and we start to think about, it's kind of funny when I do this. It comes back and goes, Dylan Gabriel's the quarterback for Oregon, and I'm like, what the hell? So it's kind of funny when it comes to that. Context in one sentence: Oregon's 7-1. 4-1 in the Big Ten. They're number 2 in EPA. They're number 1 in yards per point margin or yards per play margin. Available yards, they're number 1. Faces a 6-2 team that's been scoring lately. Turnover margin is good, but they're 124th in offense. Quarterback's 96th QBR. And their rush EPA allowed is 60th. So that means even though the defense has been good, they don't stop the run as effectively as what you might think they do. So then you start breaking it down and you go through some of this stuff, and you've got a quarterback edge. Remember who this team's played. So I specifically told this. Look, Iowa's got a newfound offense. I want you to calculate that in. It comes back to me and goes, it scored 25 points in its last 3 games, but versus the 110th, 95th, and 122nd defenses. I think people are going to see what's going on with Iowa and go, man, they're scoring points, and they're going to score points on Oregon. I don't think they're going to score hardly any points. So as it turns out, when it comes down to, where this game goes, the margin here was 24 for Oregon, 13 for Iowa. Makes a little bit of sense, looks right, and it comes out to be like, one of the better plays of the week. So Oregon goes there. I think Florida State took some money yesterday. They are now minus or plus 1.5 instead of 2.5. I don't think that's going to matter much. I think Florida State's going to win that game outright. I think you might want, if you like the Indiana play, I think you should probably bet that pretty quick, because I don't think it's going to stay where it's at. I think it's going to go 15, 16, something like that, 17, as it climbs. And Georgia's been taking money. So I think Georgia's up to -9 now. So, I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But I'm pretty confident in where I'm at and what's going on in these situations. I think reading, you're really good at reading the market. And I think like this Oregon game is a specific example of how data can help you with realizing, okay, well, Iowa's been doing really well, but of course they've been playing really bad defenses. So they're going to not face a really bad defense this week. So I think that's going to be one of those spots where, it's pretty good for Oregon.
The other thing I think why Iowa's getting some money right now, Scotty, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. Is the weather. Windy, rainy, typical Iowa weather. And I think for some public bettors, squares, or whoever's on the Iowa getting money. They go back when Oregon hosted Wisconsin and played with their food. They were 30-point favorites or even higher than that, and didn't cover that game. Why? It was a wet track. It was rainy. It was dreary in Oregon. And I think people are saying Iowa looking great the last 3-4 weeks, a newfound offense at home. And so when you peel the layers back like you do, you're finding some of those hidden gems, and you're finding the EPA, the rankings and stuff like that. On paper, if you were just to do a blind resume, the points look great. Hey, I think this could be, quote unquote, a 23-20 game. 23-17. And as you said, and I'm not saying me myself, but I think that's what people are reading. Hey, this is going to be one of those old-fashioned slobber knockings, roll the ball out, defensive, maybe a pick six, a punt return, something on the Iowa special teams, which they've usually shined, especially at home, to keep this close. But when the real raw numbers are pulled back, it's kind of not even close.
That's what I think is the beauty of sort of this games on paper data. You're not going to find all of this data that way in traditional numbers. So when you're looking at different things, as long as you understand what you're really looking at, I'm trying to help people with that. But as long as you understand really what you're looking at, and then how to relate it to, I mean, none of this works if you don't relate it to the scores and possibility of what the outcomes look like. Because, who cares how many sacks a team gets if you can't relate it to how many stops that makes, and then think about how many possessions a team's going to have, and, how many first downs they're going to get and stuff like that. If you can't put that into perspective that way, then the stat means nothing. So it's kind of important to be able to have context around exactly what it is that these data points really turn into. So it's kind of interesting how stuff breaks out. But yeah, I think that's a perfect example of how sometimes you look at this stuff and people might look at it and go, man, that's just a crazy kind of thing. So anyway, but that's just a couple games. I don't know. I don't know if you got any other ones you want me to break down, or if we're done, or how you want to do it. That's up to you. I mean, that's totally up to you. I will tell you that sometimes you get information that is kind of cool. I don't know if people know who Dr. Bob is, but that's Dr. Bob Sports. And he's got a service in a syndicate group. And he is on Indiana, by the way. So he gave out a play for that. Brad Powers is on, he's on James Madison Marshall over 54.5, Texas Tech, LSU. Those were his ones. I'm sure he'll have, he shows today, so he'll have a couple other, yo-yo plays out there, but it is what it is. I mean, these guys come up and they the things that they say are just unbelievable how they, and then a guy like him is going to put, I don't know, $2,000 on a bet, and then advise all of his people to make the same bets based off of stuff that is unbelievable in how he words stuff sometimes. It's just, I can't believe it.
Scotty's in pocket plays. Indiana minus 14.5, Georgia minus 7.5, A&M minus 7 at Missouri, the Ducks minus 6 at Iowa, Florida State plus 2.5, Toledo minus 14 already cashed, USC minus 14 tonight. Again, we've been giving these out since Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and today is Friday. Scotty on a nice heater. We're trying to do something that most people don't do, is really what Scotty's doing, is breaking these numbers down. Unlike anyone else currently on social media or on the 4-letter word on Fox or whatever. So next week, potentially myself and Scotty will be back on Monday in the morning for our usual Monday morning weekend recap, what our eyes saw, what our numbers did, how we did in our selections. I'll be live in about 13 minutes with Andrew McGinnis at McGinnis Picks. And then I'll be back here on this channel around 11 a.m. with Nick Hathcote at NCAA Insiders to talk some more SEC, to talk some Notre Dame. Been a great week as always. I can't thank you guys enough. Do us a favor, a like, retweet, subscribe. We're at we're about 11.5, 11.6 subscribers, 1,000 that is, of course, on YouTube. Get on over there, hit us up, make us happy here. This is the marathon. We're on our 10th year of public service. January 1st, 2026 will be the start of our 11th. Working backstage with a couple groups to potentially blow the social media off the map, hopefully, what I'd like to do for 2026. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Wish everyone a blessed day. Go get yourself an espresso. Go get yourself a nice latte. Maybe some pumpkin spice. Maybe some Christmas stuff. Who knows? And I'll be back on this channel in exactly 52 minutes. Stay tuned.